First, there was Dueling Citizens, now Secrets from the Inside. Author Greg Meakin nails it again. Introducing Secrets from the Inside Radio Show. Raw, unscripted, uncensored, uncanceled. Secrets from the Inside starts now. With your hosts, Greg Meakin, Val Olson, and Captain James McCormick.
You were talking about the weather, of course, because we're in Arizona, eh?
Yeah,
It was
holiday time.
7 degrees yesterday. I only talk Fahrenheit. You know that? I graduated from Celsius like 40 years ago after Pierre Elliott Trudeau. So I'm a Fahrenheit guy. 77 yesterday. Don't know what's going to be today, but my buddies up in Canada and up north need to close their ears because it's really, really nice in Arizona today, Val.
It's perfect. It's calm. The sun is shining. It's beautiful. Santa is probably out and about with his shorts and sunglasses on today.
How's your sound? Your sound sounds a little bit light, not tinny, but a little bit soft.
Okay.
Just
Is that a
FYI, you
little
know,
better?
that's what we have our first little preview for, to mainly do a sound check, and that Greg sounds like Mr. Midnight and Val sounds great.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Sure.
I am going to try something else.
Sure.
How's that? Is that any better?
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Cool.
Okay, episode 006, Secrets from the Inside. Wow, we have covered so much in these shows. Hard to believe we have 6 episodes in the can. That's what we used to call it in mainstream. Like when it's in the can, it means it's done, it's complete, it's in there forever. So, in case you didn't know that term, Greg.
That's like that's a code word, right?
Yep.
Quick question too, again, because we're in our first, we're not at the top of the hour yet, which is our hard start. Sound wise, I have an overhead fan going. Does that interfere at all, Val? Because I think in the past that might have interfered with one host's radio mic or another. Does it sound okay, or do you hear noise in my background?
You are just fine. I'll let you know if we have any interference.
Cool.
Fans are like low grade problems. It's that's a low grade issue, Greg.
Oh, dude, and it's so funny. Just to update you real quick before we got about 5 minutes till our hard start. Top of the hour, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and yes, 10 a.m. Alberta and Arizona time. They just to update you, Captain McCormick, who's usually part of our trifecta, our trio of freedom, hosting here, is likely not going to be in today, Val. I chatted with him as usual by cell call because I'm a cell to cell phone call guy, right, Val? And this morning, and get this, he was babysitting his granddaughter. I know because when I called him, there was almost a pocket pickup. You know, you get a pocket dial pickup, and it was a little baby. And I'll tell a story about that down the road. I think you remember one of my babies called 911 by mistake years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Knock, knock, knock. The sheriff at the door, right? And this baby's the Colton sitting in the little middle of the living room with our phone in the old landline days, the phone off the hook. And the 911 operator said, I think it was a baby. So Cap McCormick, again, we got about 3 minutes here, but Cap McCormick probably will not be in. I welcomed him to parachute in. He was babysitting his granddaughter. And then I'm not sure. I think he might have been running down to the museum to be the general manager there and answer phones. Then he might have a Purple Heart meeting or two going on. Don't know if he's making a few national security phone calls or otherwise, but I think that's in between babysitting maybe his granddaughter later today. So he's busy. He's busy.
He is busy. Well, we should just catch up because I don't want to forget for people that are following this broadcast. He was busy. There was stuff going down at the museum. Any follow up, Greg? A couple episodes back, he touched on there. It seemed like there was some excitement there.
Yeah, you, as a matter of fact, Val Olson broke a story that episode. And it was about the museum in West Virginia. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
The museum that he operates in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, was vandalized. It was tagged, with the spray paint and all that stuff, blah, blah. You broke that story. For folks that want to listen back, I think that might even be on my YouTube channel. But yeah, indeed, both the museum and part of the community were vandalized. So I told him that if he does parachute in today, I want to hear the end of that story, the accumulation, because it has to do obviously with crime and urban crime. Crime comes to West Virginia, Val. So I look forward to that. I really do hope he can drop in today. I do hope, and I do look forward to really catching up with you, visiting with you here in this next, hopefully 59 minutes, in pursuit of a 59-minute show, Val, right? Our shows end up being an hour and a half. We have one that ended up being 3 hours, Val, and worth every minute. That was the Wendy Tepley Human Design episode. So I'll turn it back to you. I know we got the top of the hour coming up. I'm glad my mic works. Your mic works, and let's get on with the show. Real cool. This will be rebroadcast on YouTube. That will include that beautiful introduction, Secrets from the Inside introduction by Chris Branham. Yeah, I think you've heard that. So anyhow, back to you. We're close to the top of the hour, Val Olson, right on time. Thank you so much for a good start to the day.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is episode 006, Secrets from the Inside, with Greg Meakin. I am thrilled to facilitate this on my Twitter page, or X, I should say, on X. Get it right in case Elon just happens to pop by. And that is a very realistic possibility. I actually made connection with some of his peeps this morning. And it very well, if he does swing by, Greg, I'm going to let you know I'm booking a last minute guest, okay? I hope that's okay. You're the boss.
Remember what? The producer, the host, the pre-show guy. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, you're the everything guy. The show prep guy, the guest, the host, I was going to say booker, because you typically book guests. And here I am just throwing it out there. I think it probably had something to do with my tweet earlier this morning. I don't know if we have time. I hate to do this, just throw last minute prep to you, because I know a lot goes into planning of this show, and you involve people across the United States. But if we have time this morning, I'd love to talk about Alberta. There's a lot going on there, and as you know, children are near and dear to my heart. So when I hear a story of one family or a million, 1 million, 1 million families, I want to do something. So yeah, if you have time later, I'd love to spend some time on AB 51 stuff.
Well, I really like that idea. I really do like that idea that, as you well know, our shows really book up here with content and with guests. And indeed, it sounds funny, but I love this about live radio. We might even have like a guest or two drop in today. That's always the rule, right? We deal with really busy people, Val, right? Including like the captain today. And there's always 2 or 3 kind of informal invitations to pop in. So indeed, we might even get a pop in. You never know later today. But I so appreciate this. You bring up Alberta. I mean, seriously, you are the advocate. Okay, you're the advocate for Alberta. You're the medicine hat gal. I've known you for almost 2 years. You have your own distinct wheelhouse and brand, and you are literally living, breathing Alberta 51. And I don't want to ever put that off, although again, it's a subject matter both passionate to you and passionate to me. So as a matter of fact, just as kind of we're going on the fly here to start the show, give me a quick second. Let's actually talk about Alberta a little bit. Okay. Do you have anything
Okay.
kind of? And it's rare, as I say, maybe let's do this at the front of the show because you never know again what the back of the show is going to look like. You never do know what secrets from the inside, how it's going to go or how it's going to come out. You know that, Val. I know that. So maybe we talk indeed about Alberta early a little bit. Do you have anything kind of before we jump into that? And I think I might have a little housekeeping a little bit on my end, maybe a few minutes before we do get into any subject matters. Do you have any kind of just burning desires, just or whatever, any quick plugs you want to start with before we get into it, or even any anecdotes before we get into it? Because we're just a few minutes into the show here. I'll turn it back to you on that. But we
Well,
will definitely chat Alberta a little bit here.
Okay, this is embarrassing. I have a bulletin board, and I was taking notes on the fly, and I had housekeeping, specifically follow-up from the last episode, and I don't know how I missed it. Totally embarrassing here. It just says James meeting president. That was from the last episode, and
By the way, in between probably, in between babysitting his granddaughter and everything else. Oh yeah, he said that. By the way, you have a good memory here, Val, or at least good note taking, because I remember that. He says by the ways that make your jaw drop. He said, yeah, by the way, Donald Trump invited me to New Hampshire when he was running to get my input based on my Purple Heart experience and national security experience and all this stuff. Yeah, by the way, I visited with Donald Trump for about half an hour while Karl Rove babysat my kids. And then he'll say, by the way, yeah, I know George W. Bush. That's a by the way. And he sent me a wedding present, which, you know what? I got to do that. I have to follow up to see what George W. and Laura gave him as a wedding present. So that was a by the way. I'm going to speculate here, but I have Captain James confirm this if he decides to parachute in today or maybe for the next show. Is he's in correspond? He corresponds with major people. I think one including Donald Trump. Donald Trump knows him well. Donald Trump. So I don't know if that's the president he was talking about. Maybe it's W because he keeps in touch with them. But I'll guarantee you one thing. Here you go, Val. You ready? Greg's going to say a political statement. Full disclaimer, right? Is he doesn't plan on talking to Joe Biden because he already has.
Well, yeah, he's already done that. How's his washing machine? What did we find out about his washing machine?
Yeah, I think that was in between. I think that was before. He probably reached out to President Trump. I'm not sure, but before he was wrestling with his washer and dryer.
Yeah.
In West Virginia. He got up. He has his, I'm sure, honeydew list or whatever. He worked like 9 jobs in addition to being retired and stuff. But yeah, he said, yeah, going down, wrestling with my washer, my dryer, trying to get it going. And that's what this gentleman's daily life is. It's not about the big stuff. It's about the little stuff, Val. And that's why we love him so much. But I don't know if you had any washer dryer comment there or whether you want to follow up with that.
Well, I was just wondering if it was the spin cycle or what the deal is. I was curious.
These are the questions. It's so fun. These are the questions we got to ask him. That's so funny. That is so funny.
I will put it on the bulletin board. I can stroke off president, and now I'll just 2 words. Spin cycle. Okay.
Oh my God, you're always full. You know what? Funny, you're learning the Greg Meakin craft of wordsmithing. You always have 2 or 3 meanings in everything you say, right? Spin cycle.
Spin cycle is a critical cycle, Greg. When was the last time you had to do the laundry?
I'll do an essay about spin cycle, and maybe we'll even be able to segue that to like politics. Imagine that, or business. Imagine that. So very good. You're kind of feisty this morning, Val. Are you? Imagine that, Val Olson being feisty. Imagine that. I'll tell you what. Other than washer dryer, anything else kind of on your mind or your bulletin board? before we get into something else?
No, that was the big one. I just wanted to stroke off James President and follow up because a lot of people are listening and you know they want to follow up on what the latest is. So I just thought I better get that off the list and do my job. I'm an investigative journalist. The least I can ask is, what presidents are we talking about here?
Oh, isn't it awesome? And seriously, and even the by the ways, because when we say big names, this is seriously, I haven't mentioned this on the air before, but Cap McCormick, he was in touch with General Mike Flynn, General Michael Flynn. And General Flynn actually gave an endorsement to the oil company guys. Remember that Oil Workers Association, and General Flynn's looking at and soon to hopefully be endorsing Sheriff Lamb down here. So that's almost kind of like one of those by the ways. Oh yeah, by the way, General, chatting with the general, he gave us some endorsements there. So already you're asking the right investigative journalist questions right off of your Post-it notes on the bulletin board there, Val. Don't forget too. This is your kitchen table, right? You know, and this is your kitchen table, and we sit around. You and I have sat here for, believe it or not, get this. I think this is 30 total episodes together, working together, and on Secrets from the Inside brand, this wonderful new brand, episode 6. So you and I are old partner buddies right now. We're always still 1,000% independent of each other. You think the way you think, I think the way I think. But it's been a really cool, actually, quite truthfully, Val, just a really nice collaboration. And I really do enjoy the connection that you have with your audience, and especially our dear friends in Alberta. I really do. I chatted with someone yesterday. It was interesting, up in Alberta, and he was a hockey guy. Imagine that. I mean, a hockey guy, meaning he was a hockey dad up there in a small town. I won't share, but it was really, really cool. Where this guy, also a deeply connected person in with hockey and in around hockey and stuff, and it was interesting because I chatted with him, and he was a diehard Albertan person, and very old. He's just kind of open to discussion and stuff about everything, including Canada and Eastern Canada and all that stuff. But in the end, we talked about, Val, seriously, and this is so fun. We talked about hockey. We talked about fatherhood. Because that's me, is fatherhood. Really, doesn't matter how big or small or little or tall someone is. I'm deeply, deeply committed to really fatherhood and mentorship and stuff. And I just wanted to assure folks, it sounds funny, but your connection with Alberta has been such a blessing to me because I've met so many people. I said to this gentleman, I said, I talk to more people in Alberta right now than I do in the United States, Val.
Yeah.
And my YouTube analytics indicate it, which is really cool. But in the end, I don't want to get kind of too wishy-washy to start the show, which I'll always do. But just want to say everybody's kind of together in this, whether it's all regular folks up in Alberta, regular folks down in the United States. I really believe in the 80-20 rule. I believe we all agree on 80% of the stuff. This gentleman, by the way, was a differing political persuasion to me, which is fine. I'm a multicultural, multi-political guy, right, Val? I'm the only guy that I know who voted for Pierre Elliott Trudeau twice. Can you imagine? I'm sorry. Can you imagine that? I'm the only guy I know that's voted in 2 Quebec referendums. As a solid no. I did not want for a minute sovereignty for Quebec, and especially with a wishy-washy kind of question. You should have seen it, Val. This is before you were basically born, but a long time ago. And the question was, I couldn't believe it. And I was a young guy, but it was sovereignty association. And it was a big question, big national question, big international question. But I couldn't even get through the question without it being overcomplicated. Sovereignty association. Okay, so what do you want? Quebec, you want to be independent of Canada. Okay, I get it. But you also want to have association, meaning still receive equalization monies. And I'm going, well, wait a minute. That's not independent, right? That's a teenager. Quebec was I wrote this, I published this. Quebec was like a teenager, a misbehaved teenager who wanted their independence to leave the house, when they're 15, 16, 17 years old, but they have no way to do it on their own. So I'm surprised I chatted about that, but you get the stuff out of me every day, right, Val? You choke the secrets from the inside out of me. But when I say this, I segue really all the way back to saying everybody in Alberta, most of the people I know down here in Arizona, most of the people I know out there really in the world right now, they're squeezed financially. It's a tough time economically for people. Down here, gas prices virtually tripled. I mean, come on, man. So everyone's kind of being squeezed. But everybody at the same time is feeling, looking for our commonality. We're feeling commonality, that we're up against the same struggles, the same type of struggles. And one is freedom. I'll just say broadly, one's freedom. And the other is kind of the groceries and paying the gas and our utility bills and blah, blah, blah. But it again, as a kind of a little bit of a long monologue, I just want to reach out to everybody up there and say, hey, we quote all are in the same boat. I will forever and ever and ever, forever be an advocate of AB 51, Alberta 51. We've given folks a way to do it, or at least a business plan of how at least to get to that point. But either way, I still think we're all just kind of 80% trying to get along, trying to find our freedom, bringing the family together, making the home front more important than it was, be awesome hockey dads and hockey moms, that kind of thing. So bit of a monologue there, but thank you for that. And yes, indeed, I'd be happy to at least chat a little bit about Alberta today.
That's good, because I just want to unpack a little of what you shared there. Interesting, kind of referring to Quebec and when, they were going after sovereignty. You mentioned that it was like an irate kind of teenager a little bit. And when we look at what's happening in Alberta, you're not seeing the irate teenager. It's more like the parental unit is at a point where they can't properly feed their children. They can't properly clothe them over the cold winter months. Socialized medicine is an absolute farce and joke. They can't access proper care for their children. They can't afford the medications. This lie of, oh, it's all free. Grow up. Like every politician touting that needs to grow up and sober up, because we're not stupid. So just a different dynamic there.
I'll tell you what. I love long form radio. I love live radio because you really don't know kind of where the discussion's going. I'll just point out, you touched base and you talked about child hunger there. I just want to take a second real quick on that. That was, as you well know, we addressed that in a previous episode, Val. And I think it came out, I believe, on my YouTube channel as a clip, my famous clips, I'm sure in the last few days or whatever, because I really wanted to be clear about that. And I'll give you a minute here, seriously. This was a big issue. I said to you, and I think it's on the clip, I said, Val, wait a minute. Are you telling me, and I'm serious, are you telling me that kids or seniors are have hardship up in Alberta, including hunger? And I mean it too. I'll say that right now live. Are you telling me? And I still pinch myself. I don't understand it. I don't understand it because the billions of dollars that are rolling in everywhere in North America, US and Canada and Alberta. And I clarified it at the time, and take a minute here. Clarified, are you telling me there's child hunger in Alberta? It's an astonishing question to even ask. Go ahead.
I am a 9-year-old boy who hopes a friend invites me to sleep over, so I can have dinner. I am a 15-year-old girl who goes to the office during lunch. So
I can't hear your mic there. I can't hear your mic. I don't know if something happened there as you were.
I'm a 13-year-old.
Okay.
That's better.
Sorry about that. What we're talking about this morning is child hunger in Alberta. And so often we talk about how prosperous Alberta is. You know who's prosperous in that province is politicians. And when it comes to our senior population and when it comes to children who are at the mercy of adults to feed them, and there is not work for mom and dad because guess what? All these big government choices and happy socialist programs that are being thrown around under the conservative banner, they're garbage. They're not working. You know how I know that? Because there's empty fridges, there's empty cupboards, and it's a real problem. And I think Alberta forgets. They get out of touch and you know, you throw these numbers around like 80% of us have stuff in common, that 80-20 rule. But the thing is, people that have children and people who don't have children, it's like they don't get it. You know, and I don't know if that's the starting point of being out of touch, but it's real when a child is hungry and they're you know, they can't function properly. Their brains aren't being nourished. And it's a huge problem. And this should be a big embarrassment for Danielle Smith. I mean, if I was the premier, I'm not, but I am an Albertan American. And this is nothing to sweep under the rug. You know, this is a time where you want to come to the table and you want to address this. You want to address this. A lady premier has some opportunity, right? This is a chance for her to be compassionate, right? And say, not on my watch, because America's watching. The USA is our local government. They know with the Constitution, a constitutional government and how it works and what that would look like in Alberta to localize it. Like if you put how the Constitution, the U.S. American Constitution, just as a blueprint, put that over Alberta, you know, and Danielle Smith is governor of Alberta, USA, I'm sorry, but she would get a fail grade. And this is the track record, right? This is the public track record. We have conservative government in power, and you look at what's going on there, and it's an absolute shit show. It's an embarrassment. And it starts with our children, it goes to our seniors, and when the most basic of necessities like medications or access to proper health care, and when parents, I know parents that cannot afford to go to a grocery store and purchase hamburger or roast beef or a steak. And when the United States, you know, I'm taking this message internationally, but here across the United States, I'll just focus in there. They hear that Albertans are their relative. Albertans are their friend. Albertans are their closest trading partner. And they want the data. They want the data. And the data is available. We know the data, the forensic poll. Greg, do you want to get into the forensic poll a little bit?
Boy, you know, maybe a follow-up or another segment for that. I want to drill down here just for a quick second, because again, this was a child hunger issue. Again, I so appreciate you sharing so passionately, and I just want to add one thing. There's so much to obviously chat about. I want to add one thing that has a personal experience to me in Quebec. This is probably my lane, really in a good way today. Because in Quebec, I was raised with universal health care. That's the word for it, cliche, talking point, whatever. And for the most part, during those years, and I'm talking 60s and 70s for the most part, it was great, Val. We actually had a local doctor, and we went down with an appointment basis and stuff. And it was weird because, of course, I've kept in touch with folks back there, not only from when I went to school, but especially family members. And it was odd because I wanted to, and this wasn't long ago, but I wanted to find out about the healthcare in Quebec. more recently, in the last few years or whatever. And I heard nightmares, Val. I heard nightmares. And I'll talk specifically. I had a relative who had 2 children. And she would never take them to the doctor, even if they were sick. Just like that. I said, well, what are you talking about? Because at the time, and this is pretty recently here, Val, they had to, if one of her kids were sick and sick, sick to the point of needing to go to the doctor, a flu or whatever, bad temperature, whatever, she would have to line up about 5 o'clock in the morning, hours before the facility opened, to simply get a place in line. And forget appointments. Again, this is one story, but it really bugged me. She had to wait for since like 5 o'clock in the morning to get an appointment. There was no appointments. It was still a clinic type of situation. And then once you got in, you'd literally have to wait again, like a clinic situation, till as late as she told me, like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then if they closed, they closed. I was stunned. So because of that, she doesn't take her kids to the doctor, Val. I have another friend in Montreal. Same thing. Where you don't even dream of going to an emergency room, because of the wait, and of course the wait, and blah blah blah. And so all I know is the stories I've heard. And you touched on here a little bit the state of affairs with Alberta healthcare. I pray. The easy answer is AB 51, or establish your own truly beautiful cradle to grave type of healthcare, very much like the quality of service you receive in the United States. People can say what they want about U.S. healthcare, but it's absolutely incredible. I can say that because I've gone through it. It's incredible quality. People, we've said on the air before, the United States won't allow their citizens to die. That's a broad statement. But there are no, oh boy, I won't say it. I won't say it. They're called, in the old days, these were called death panels, where patients in universal health care are too old, and they're too old, or at least becoming a real burden on the system financially. We've had these. You got me going. I didn't think I was going to be talking politics today, Val.
You just take a minute, and I want you to go in about how USA doesn't let their citizens die, and then I'm going to take a minute and respond firsthand with what's happening in Alberta, and you don't want to miss this, people.
Wow, Val, I'll tell you what. I didn't think I was going to be chatting about this today. I'm very opinionated, and I have stories and stuff, but I didn't think I was going to be chatting about this today, but I will, okay? I will. These are broad brush strokes, full disclaimer. I know people in Canada to this day who could get fabulous, quote, healthcare. They still have a local doctor, grandfathered in stuff or whatever. And I also, on the same note, down here in the States, there are real tragic stories too. Tragic stories, whether it's some of the VA hospital issues or whatever. But for the most part, and this is a broad brushstroke, for the most part, I was absolutely stunned and blown away with how Canada started this assisted suicide stuff, Val. I'm just telling you. Saskatchewan, dial 5 for assisted suicide, right? Even with young people. Yeah. Even with young people, like military guys with PTSD. Go ahead, fact checkers, rock and roll. If we're wrong here, because we've discussed it on the air, Val. And but that it just brought up a bigger issue, and it was actually just to drift back a little bit. It was at the time that that Buffalo Bills kid died on the field, collapsed on the field on Monday Night Football. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Everybody knows. And again, my statement on the air the next day is he had died twice before he got out of the stadium. But American paramedics revived him twice. And it was at a real key moment in time where we're talking healthcare, and my statement was what you saw there, and you'd see the same. You see the same with emergency personnel. Again, broad brushstroke in Europe and in Canada and stuff. But what you saw illustrated there was U.S. healthcare, whose primary mission is to save lives, regardless of what your age is, regardless of what your income level is, blah, blah. Biggest misnomer in the United States is that they turn around away people to die in the streets. Nonsense. Nonsense. You walk into an emergency room in the United States. Again, there are stories, obviously, that the tragic stories too. You walk into an emergency room in the United States, they'll save your life. Okay, I'll take it to the grave on that one because I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I watched. Okay, yeah, I've got some
Can I
personal
talk about
stories.
Alberta? 'Cause
Yes, please, please. Very, very good. But again, the broad brushstroke was we won't let them die in the United States. It's there to save lives, regardless of income. And sadly, everything I see of all universal and socialized medicine is they do have actuarial tables where they do actually either delay or forego care for old people. Period. And I'll take challenges on that. But go ahead, back to Alberta, Val. Sorry to rant on that a little bit.
I don't mean to laugh, but if you just want to shine the spotlight on the other side of the 49th, Governor Danielle Smith of Alberta's, what she has going on in her operation here, not what you're talking about in the USA. If you want to talk equality between what's going on in Alberta and USA, saving lives, well, that wasn't the case for dear Sheila, who was denied life-saving treatment. Because she refused to get vaccinated. That's a cold, hard reality. Family doctors, and how many Albertans have access to family doctors? We should do a radio call-in show on that. And I would love, you know how I am with mapping stuff out. I would love to know the names of who has a family doctor and what politician you're connected to, because all these things matter. I remember, my baby Erica, not a baby anymore, but I remember packing the kids up to go and just stand in line. What you're talking about, that line you have to stand up and that's a socialized medical program, right? That's what it is. It is what it is. You stand in a line and you wait for a doctor. You do. You pack the picnic basket, you pack food, and you wait in a line. But I know a fast track. So for you Albertans who are listening, this is officially a secret from the inside that works. I know this because I used to do this. So you can go to the methadone clinic in Alberta, and they also check with them because many of them have this, they will bump those that need their treatments or fixes or whatever you want to call it. I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me, but let's just put it under fix. They get to go first, but if you stand in the lineup, you get in faster. It's just way quicker to go to methadone treatment clinic to see a doctor than it is to stay in the average, wait your turn, stand in line just to see a doctor in Alberta. That approach does work. And can we put a price tag on time? It was hard juggling a little, new baby and trying to get into just anybody to, get medicine. It's a real problem. And that was years ago. It's only gotten worse in Alberta, not better. And it doesn't matter what, you could float Rachel Notley, Danielle Smith. I mean, one's a brunette, one's a blonde, blah, blah, blah. Same programs, different day. Now, if we take Governor Danielle Smith, there would need to be some equality from this side of the 49th, because you were talking, Greg, about how doctors save lives, how hospitals will save lives versus what you see in Alberta. It's that, one shot, you get one chance, one doctor, one shot, there you go. And if that doesn't work, well, there's always the 511 line. And what that program offers is medical assistance in dying on demand, but only during government hours, okay? Because, government workers need their days off too. So you just come back when they're back and they'll hold your hand. Cradle to grave government programs at their best. That is Alberta in a nutshell.
It's, as I always say, what do you really think, Val? I love it. I love it. I address this in my book, and it's about the healthcare issue. We're talking about it. And all I will say, and that's to folks in Alberta and really in the States and state by state, is there's enough money to have absolutely phenomenal health care, the health care that we all dream of, and the health care that I and my family have received in our lifetime in 3 states in the United States. You can have absolutely fabulous healthcare. It must be market driven. It must be on a really clear model, which is established. I'd say this again. I'll pivot here. I didn't think I was going to talk about it, but it's important. You can have incredible coverage like I experienced in Washington State was with Kaiser Permanente. And they were a large HMO. They're affiliated. It was like many of the hospital networks do, where it's a conglomerate and stuff. But they were so beautifully managed. They had it was literally appointment for everything, no problem. Short notice, no problem. Pharmacy in the facility, X-rays in the facility. They had it set up as a beautiful pod. It felt like an airport, where you'd walk in and be greeted, and literally virtually everything was within pods within this facility. But most importantly, they brought a personal touch. Not only was it just you present your Kaiser card and that you pay $10 or $15 copay, maybe sometimes zero, and you go down to your doctor. You got a personal doctor, relationship doctor. And I told this story. I told this a long time ago on the air. I believe it might. I don't know if it was with you, Val, or was it whether it was with Mike Phillip up in Edmonton. But I had said I got a call one evening. I think I put this in. Yeah, I put this in the book, my healthcare section. Got a call one evening when I was living up in the Seattle area from my doctor. And he said, Mr. Meakin, during your visit earlier today, it looks like you had a little weight loss, a little concern, 8 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever. We had a whole phone conversation in the evening with him because he was worried about it. And I was like, wow, this is great care. This is great care. So you can have great care. I've heard even, we've got there were nightmare stories about the VA, but there are also good stories down here about the VA. And all I'm saying is there's plenty of money in Alberta. There's plenty of money in the United States. There's working business models right now that are beautiful healthcare. And I mean, Val, cradle to the grave. And the model that I set up in my book, I'm going off of memory, it was a checklist about 6 or 8 things that need to be done in order to improve healthcare. But we have the money to do it. We have the great people to do it. There are folks out there. So much is based on staffing, so much. You've got, honestly, some terrible employees out there in the world in general. And then you have some angels and Sally's, as I've written about, totally efficient, great, personable people. So I'm actually, I'll just wrap it up here on you can have great healthcare. We have someone